What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today is another installment of a Macro Monday here on the channel, where I review a beer from a macro brewery or a macro-esque beer from a craft brewery. And the beer I'm reviewing today comes from Grupo Modelo, and they are headquartered in Mexico City, Mexico, and this is their Modelo Especial. So they are calling this one a golden, full-flavored Pilsner-style lager with a clean, crisp finish. It comes in at 4.4% alcohol by volume, 18 IBUs at the time of review. I don't know exactly how old this can is, but it does have a best by date of September of 2023, and we're about 3 months away from that time frame. It's not really an exact date, but from that month, so we should be fine. Now, I'm reviewing this one because a very good friend of mine and a viewer of the channel, Billy, said that this is one of his favorite macro beers. He goes for more of the Mexican lagers when he goes with a macro beer, so I thought I would review it, and I was able to find this huge 24 fluid ounce can, 710 milliliters for like $2.99, so I was like, all right, we're gonna give it a go. Now, I've had Modelo numerous times, and honestly, when it comes to a macro Mexican lager, this is one of my favorites. Shout out to the motorcycle going by. But yeah, it's one of my favorites. You know, I like Tecate, I like Sol. There's a couple others that I really enjoy, but this is probably up there with one of my favorites. Now, I will say when it comes to Mexican lagers in general, I like drinking them with Mexican food. Who would have thunk it? When they're drank on their own, you know what? I rarely haven't sat down and like reviewed a beer like this within the style and kind of picked it apart. But typically it's like you're on vacation and you're at the beach or you're poolside. That's when these are pretty much consumed. So it's gonna be weird kind of sitting here and actually reviewing it, but we're gonna do so. So anyway, let's crack it open and get it into the glass. See what we got going on now with these big ass cans. I always have issues pouring them, so I'm gonna spill probably at least an ounce or two somewhere all over the table. So let's give it a pour here. And as I said, there you go. It's something about these beers, how they pour out, like right from the get-go, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to come up with a new kind of way to pour this out of these huge cans. For some reason, these huge cans, they just don't pour well for me specifically, but whatever. Do you guys give a shit? No, neither do I. So we're gonna throw this over here like that. And yeah, so as you can see, we have a nice lager here. Now, Mexican lagers are typically just American adjunct lagers, but they have a little bit of different kind of brewing techniques and whatnot. You can, do a little bit of a Google search and find out, but like, there's some subtle differences and whatnot. A lot of times I think they use like flaked maize as well. But anyway, this has that beautiful golden kind of yellow color. Has a lot of carbonation. Had about a finger of a bright white soap sudsy looking head that is now dissipated to a thin film. Hold it up to light, great clarity. It's kind of what you expect. Now, a lot of Mexican lagers are if you get like a Corona, or even most of them, a lot of people will put lime, sometimes even salt. Reviewing this by itself, not doing that here. Yeah, I mean, this smells to me very akin to your standard American adjunct lager, right? I will say it has a little bit of like a malt character that's reminding me, very slight, mind you, very slight, of like a little bit of a honey. Yeah, a little bit of like a sweeter malt sensation that isn't like corny. It's more like honey-like. Could just be because I think these typically have the lime in them, but I'm getting like a little lemon lime kind of zesty citrus. There is like an underlying like corny sensation too, but like there's like a slight honey sweetness, maybe even a bit of orange too. It smells very inoffensive. It smells like it might be a little bit sweeter. I like that zesty lemon lime thing mixed in with the orange, a little bit of citrus character. But for the most part, this just smells like a beer. Yeah, maybe a slight grassiness from the hops. Very mild though. Like this, obviously this is gonna be hop forward or anything. It's gonna have a mild bitterness if anything. Yeah, it smells pretty good. Now, it's been a while since I've had Modelo. The last Modelo I had was Negra Modelo, which is like their Munich-style Dunkel. I had that at a Brazilian steakhouse, and it went with those meats fantastic. Like, it was a perfect pairing. I love that. I'll have to review that at some point. Anyway, let's get into this one. Cheers. It's pretty damn solid. For what this is, it's pretty solid. And what I like is on the finish, I get this little, and this has been happening a little bit lately, maybe my palate changed something. A lot of times I get, and you speak to different people when they're like breaking down a beer and reviewing it. They get different parts of the palate where they get hit with either the malt character or the hop character, maybe the yeast and whatnot. A lot of times I get all the malt sweetness up front, and then I get the hops on the back of the palate, which kind of blends in with the bitterness and like the dryness and everything. Sometimes on the back of the palate, like the malt will come back, and that's what this is happening. We'll go body mouthfeel, then we'll talk about that though. Body this it's not watery. This is probably lower side of medium body for 4.4%. That's appropriate. And this might be full bodied for something that's 4.4%. The mouthfeel, it's crisp, it's effervescent, it's a lager, right? So you would expect that, but it is pretty smooth going down. That might be the same motorcycle. No, it sounds different. So body mouthfeel are nice. The taste, this isn't super flavorful. It's not punching me in the face with flavor, but right up front, I get hit with a little bit of this honey, very slight honey, kind of almost biscuity malt character, and a little bit of like a cereal grain, but more like a honey biscuity malt flavor. As it passes through, midway through the palate, I get this zesty lemon lime, a little bit of orange as well, so citrus definitely midway through the palate. And that's why I think this style kind of differs for me from a regular, like an American adjunct, American lager, is that a lot of times I get like a fruitiness that's like an apple or a pear or something. This is a little bit more citrus leaning. On the back of the palate, this finishes pretty dry. This is, I'd say, semi to full-on dry. It's a very mild bitterness. It's grassy and maybe slightly floral, but very minute. This is more dry than bitter. Pretty well balanced. But then on the back of the palate, that like honey biscuity kind of thing pops back up on the finish. So the finish kind of finishes a little bit, so like that dryness hits, but then the malt hits again. It's kind of weird for me, but it doesn't finish like exceptionally dry despite the fact that it is pretty dry. It feels dry, but that malt character kind of hits again, so the flavor starts to remind me maybe it's a little bit of a malt sweetness. But anyway, this is a pretty well-balanced beer, very easy to drink. If you're eating Mexican food with this would pair beautifully, especially with some spicier dishes. I'm sure it'd be fantastic. Typically, I don't eat with beer. There's a lot of people who pair beer and food. A lot of times I like to separate them, but sometimes I do. I've had some Mexican lagers with Mexican food, and they're great. I've never had Modelo specifically with it, but it's going to pair exceptionally well. At 4.4%, you could drink a ton of these. Like, you could throw them back. I always think, as far as Mexican lagers from bigger breweries, like, macro Mexican lagers, this for me is in the top 3. I don't know what else I'd put with that, that beer specifically, but like I said, maybe Tecate, maybe Sol. I don't know. I'm gonna have to review them all. I'm gonna try to review them all, see if I can get individual cans or bottles of them and review them, because it's been a while since I've had a lot of them, but this is pretty fucking good, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's not. So because I don't love the style, just this, I say this when I review American adjunct lagers, it's the same with these. I don't love the style. I find it to be okay. So personal preference is always going to be lower when it comes to the rating, but I will give this a score based on, let me pour a little bit. Now, I'm not going to pour it because I'm probably going to duff it everywhere. So I'll just say this, Modelo, right? As far as stylistically, if we put it in the Mexican lager from a bigger, macro brewery, this is like a 4.5 out of 5. That's where this lands for me. This is one of the better ones that I've had. I won't compare them to any Mexican craft breweries because I haven't had any. Maybe one or two with collaborations. I'm not even going to compare them to American craft breweries either, because a lot of the breweries brew Mexican lagers. I'm just saying, from a big macro company, this is one of the better I've had within the style. Personal preference, I'm going to go high 3.5 and go 3.6 out of 5. I think personal preference, this is a pretty damn good, enjoyable, solid, decent beer overall, but within the style, I really like it. Price point and availability, I paid $2.99 for that can, and then I saw they had 18 packs. They were $21.99, and then they had 24 packs, and they were $27.99. So, you're talking a little bit over $1 a can, like $1 to like $1.20 a can. That's fine. This isn't as good of a deal because I'm not buying a big pack for it, but to just have this and have a couple beers at a single time for $2.99, you can't beat that. And availability, it's Modelo. You should probably see this everywhere. If you don't see Modelo in your area, that's crazy to me. You might not be able to find these huge individual cans, but you should probably be able to find bigger packs of them. So anyway, if you've had this one before, post in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about it. Where do you place this? And again, let's just kind of hyper focus on bigger macro Mexican lagers. Where do you place Modelo? Do you like do you like Pacifico better? Do you like Sol, Tecate? There's I think a good, like 7 or 8 that a lot of people can get their hands on. Off the top of my head, I'm kind of blanking right now, other than the ones I mentioned. Again, this is probably in the top 3 for me, but once I review all of them, I guess we'll do like a list or something. Yeah, anyway, appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here in the Beer Patrol. Tune in for another Macro Monday. I'm trying to do these every 3 weeks, and I'm going through viewer suggestions as we speak. There's a couple others that I have that I want to get. Land Shark Lager. It was recommended by Kevin, but I can't find a single of that. So if I can find a single bottle or can, I will get it. I don't want to buy an entire 12-pack because I won't drink it most likely. So we'll see. I have a couple others on the docket, including Negra Modelo. I will review that, probably Pacifico at some point by the end of summer. We'll see. Anyway, cheers to the next one. See ya.